tremble and fear when their last hour comes, and they will die screaming screams of terror, even as a man having no stick, when he sees a snake, is stricken with fear. But those people who have practiced meditation on death, we have no fear. When their last hour comes, but we be like a steadfast man who sees a snake, even from a distance, takes it up with his stick and toss it away. So Buddha said, practice meditation on death. It is strange that when we practice meditation on death, we lose fear of death. Not altogether, but we lose some fear of death. That is because when we reflect on death many times, we become familiar with this experience. So when it really comes, we'll be able to face it without much fear. So Buddha's method is to meet death face to face rather than to run away from it. So Buddha's advice may be quite the opposite of what people are doing nowadays. So nowadays people don't want to hear about death, don't see about death. Life is short. It is important to get enjoyment. They don't want to hear about death. They don't want to think about death. Although they don't want to think about death, death is certain. Death will come one day to us and we cannot escape. So it is better to be prepared than to be frightened when the last moments of life come to us. So Buddha taught these people to practice meditation on death. But the commentary says, with the exception of one young girl, about 16 years of age, she was the daughter of a weaver. Nobody took it seriously, and they followed their ways and forget about recollections on death. But that young girl practiced meditation on death every day, and she practices for 3 years. After 3 years, after teaching them to practice mindfulness of death, Buddha went back to the city of Savatthi. So for 3 years, that girl practiced meditation on death. And after 3 years, one day Buddha surveyed the world looking for beings who were mature enough to get enlightenment. This girl entered his knowledge. So Buddha knew that that girl had potential to become enlightened, and Buddha knew that he would ask the girl 4 questions and she would give the answer to the questions. And then Buddha would congratulate her on being able to answer these questions correctly and so on. So Buddha went again to the city of Alawi. When Buddha reached there, town people invited him to a meal. After taking the meal, Buddha was sitting looking for that girl. Although there was a multitude of people waiting for the Buddha to give Anumodana, gladdening Dhamma talk, that girl was not there, and Buddha thought to himself, for the sake of that very person, I came Alawi city, but she is not here yet. So Buddha went dead, keeping silent. So Buddha was silent. When Buddha silent, nobody dared to utter a word. So everybody was silent. Now when the girl heard that Buddha had come to her city, she was very glad. She had great devotion for the Buddha. So she was very glad and she decided to go and see the Buddha and listen to his Dhamma talk. But on that day, her father said, there is a garment or there is a cloth on the loom and a span of it is yet to be completed. And he said, my daughter, I must finish it today. So you quickly replenish the shuttle and bring it to me. The weaver's father said to the girl. So this was what her father said. When she heard this, she thought to herself, I want to go to the Buddha and listen to his Dhamma talks, and now my father is asking me to replenish the shuttle and bring it to him. So, what should I do? Go to the Buddha and listen to his Dhamma talk, or to carry out what my father asked to do? What should I do? Then she thought, if I fail to bring my father the shuttle, he would strike me and he would beat me. So I will first replenish the shuttle and give it to him and wait until afterwards to hear the Dhamma. That means she will replenish the shuttle and then she would bring it to her father, and after that she would go to the Buddha. So the weaver's daughter replenished the shuttle and she put it in the basket and she picked it up and went to where her father was working at the weaver's workshop. So on the way, she approached the multitude waiting for the Buddha to give a Dhamma talk. So she stood at the edge of the crowd and stood looking at the Buddha. Now, Buddha saw her coming from a distance, and Buddha also looked at her. And he looked at her in such a way that the weaver's daughter knew that Buddha wanted her to come closer. Maybe the gesture of the eyes of the Buddha was beckoning her to approach. So she put down the basket and went closer to the Buddha. When the weaver's daughter came close to the Buddha, Buddha asked her 4 questions. So the first question Buddha asked was, where did you come from? And she said, I don't know. Then Buddha asked the second question, where are you going? She said, I don't know, Bhante. And Buddha asked the third question, do you not know? Then she said, I know, Bhante. And the last question was, do you know? And she answered, I don't know, Bhante. So when the audience heard her give this answer, they were offended. And they said, this girl was saying whatever she likes with the fully enlightened Buddha. Now she was making jokes with the Buddha and so on. So the audience criticized her, but Buddha silenced them and asked her again, my daughter, why did you say, I don't know, when I asked you, where did you come from? So the question you need to think deeply, where did you come from? Buddha asked. Then she said, Bhante, you know everything. You are fully enlightened Buddha. So you know where I came from. I came from my house. I came from the house of my father, the weaver. Fully enlightened Buddha, you already know this. So when you asked this question, I thought that you are not asking me from which place I came from, but you are asking me from which existence I came from and was to be reborn here. Since I do not know where I came from and to be reborn here, so I said, no Bhante. So when she gave this answer, Buddha was very pleased. And Buddha said, well said, my daughter. You have answered my question correctly. And Buddha praised her for being able to answer it. So this question you also need to answer yourself. Where did you come from? So that means from which existence you come from which existence you come from, probably from the good realms. You came from because of the present what you are doing. We can guess you came from very good realms, but exactly we don't know which existence we came from. Then Buddha asked the next question, my daughter, when I ask, where are you going? Why did you say I don't know? Again, she said, Bande, you know that I'm going to my father's workshop, but I don't think you are asking that. You are fully enlightened Buddha. What you were asking was, I think, where you will be reborn after you leave this life. And that I don't know. And so I said, I don't know Bande. Again, Buddha said, well said, my daughter. You answered this question correctly. So Buddha praised for the second time. Also, this question is the most important for us. We have to live this life. One day, when after we leave this life, where we will go. So long as we have kilesa and karma, we have to go to another life. So it is the most important for our last moment. So last moment, we will know where we will go. But to make sure you are here, we all are here to make sure that our next life will be Sukati. Sukati. And the third question Buddha asks, my daughter, when I asked you, do you know? Why did you say I know? Then she said, Bande, I think when you ask, do you not know? You are asking whether I do not know. That is certain for me. I know that is certain for me. And so I said, yes, Bande. Then Buddha said, well said, my daughter. So Buddha praised for the third time. So it is important. We have to know, we have to remember that will come to us, that is certain for us. We need to know. The last question is, why did you say, I don't know, when I asked you, do you know? And daughter said, although I know that death is certain for me, I do not know when death will come, whether in the morning or in the afternoon, or whether this month or that month, and so on. During this pandemic time, we don't know. We don't know when we die. So I don't know when it will come, and so I said, I don't know Bande. Then Buddha said, well said, my daughter. So Buddha praised for the fourth time. And Buddha said, you answer my question correctly. So she answered these 4 questions, and after each answer, Buddha said words of praise for her. And at the end, Buddha said to the multitude, you don't know the meaning of my question, and so you wanted to criticize the girl. But this girl knew what I meant, and she gave answer correctly. So those who do not possess the eyes of wisdom are the blind ones, and those who possess the eyes of wisdom are those who see. And then Buddha uttered this verse. Anta Buddha Ayan Logo Tanukita Vipasati Sakuno Jala Mudawa Apo Sagaya Gichati. Blind is this world. There are only few that can see clearly. As birds who escape from a net, only a few go to a blissful state. So Buddha said, this verse you can see, you can find in Dhammavada. So here Buddha said the world is blind. That means most people are not intelligent. Most people do not possess wisdom, and so this world is blind. There are only a few that see things clearly. That means that practice vipassana meditation and seeing the true nature of Namarupa, true nature of arising and passing away of the psychophysical phenomena. These people are very few. And those who are reborn in the celestial realms and those who reach Nibbana are very few. Just a few birds that escape after being caught in a net by a hunter. So now few people practice meditation. So compared to other places, meditation area are very, very few. So 1 month, 2 months, they cannot practice, no idea. They have no idea to practice, even for practicing for few hours or one week or few hours is very, very difficult for them. So practitioners are very few, and those who reach Nibbana are very, very few. So Buddha uttered this verse, and at the end of the verse, the girl became a Sotapanna. So in this story, first the girl was able to answer the Buddha's question correctly as Buddha intended because she had practiced meditation on mindfulness of death constantly for 3 years. That is why when Buddha asked, do you not know or do you know, she could guess what Buddha meant. So if she had not practiced meditation constantly, she would not have answered the Buddha's question correctly. Or she would not have even come to see the Buddha at all. Since she was practicing meditation for 3 years, she had a kind of devotion for the Buddha. And so when the Buddha had come to her city Alawi, she decided to go and see Buddha right away. So this showed that it is important that we practice meditation regularly in daily life In the intensive retreat, we have to practice meditation continuously. Not that we practice for one day and then rest for one day, then maybe rest for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and we practice again. During the intensive retreat, also not practice continuously, rest for some time. So that kinds of practice is not so beneficial, and so we do not gain momentum. This story shows that we must keep the practice with us constantly. That means every single moment. Because yogi have to contemplate every single mental state. Chitte Chittanupasi Viharati. Yogi contemplate the consciousness in the consciousness. Consciousness in the consciousness, that means every consciousness, every mental state, you need to contemplate on. So we should practice whatever meditation we choose to practice. Practice this continuously so that we are ready when the opportunity for Megaphala comes to us. So it is important that we keep our practice going, not just practicing once in a while, but it is better to practice continuously in the intensive retreat and regularly every day in the daily life. So if we have the desire and determination to keep it going, we can keep it going however much we interfere with other things. So it is important that we keep the practicing going constantly. And that is one thing, and the other is the mindfulness of death. Although it is a samatha meditation, it is good to practice. And as explained by the commentary, we can get benefits from the practice of mindfulness of death. Another thing is whenever we read the story like this, we find that at the end of the verse, so and so became enlightened. It seems so easy for them to gain enlightenment. Just listen to a verse. One verse has 32 syllables. So to say these 32 syllables, takes how many seconds? Maybe 10 or 20 seconds. After 10 or 20 seconds, a person is enlightened. That is what impression we get from reading these stories. Now, actually, these people became enlightened or became Sotapanna and so on, not without practicing meditation. But these details were not mentioned in the story in the books, and they were not recorded. But the commentary says there is no mental development without comprehending the kaya, body, within our feeling, chitta, consciousness, and dhamma objects. That means without practicing satipatthana meditation, without practicing vipassana meditation, there can be no mental development. there can be no attainment of enlightenment. There can be no realizations of Nibbana. So when we read that somebody became enlightened after the verse, we must understand that he or she went through the stages of vipassana meditation. It is not like you snap the finger and a person is enlightened. Yogi has to practice at least for some minutes while listening to the teaching of the Buddha. Although the verse only is recorded, Buddha must have taught more than this verse. So it is said that Buddha talked very, very fast. When we say one word, Buddha could say 128 words. So that means Buddha spoke 128 times faster than we do. So if Buddha talked for 5 minutes, how much the teaching would be? That is why it is said that just the teaching given in one sitting becomes a whole Nikaya, becomes the whole collections of maybe 1,000 pages and so on. So Buddha must have taught more than this verse. He must have explained it and he must have taught them to practice meditation and so on. While listening to the teaching of the Buddha, they must have been meditating. They must have been going through the stages of vipassana. Such people are those who had accumulated experience in the past, or in other words, who had paramis. So all the yogis, surely you have very good paramis. Even in this life, many, many times you have been practicing these kinds of meditation. Surely you had accumulated experience in the past, in this life also. So they have practiced in their past life, so they are ripe for enlightenment. They are like a lotus flower waiting to open up at the first appearance of the sun rays. So they are just ready for enlightenment. Buddha gave this talk and then explained some more, and then they were able to achieve enlightenment. So whenever we read such stories, we must understand that they must have gone through the stages of vipassana meditation in order to reach enlightenment. So without going through the stages of vipassana meditation, they could not gain enlightenment. Now in this story, the girl became Sotapanna. After she became a Sotapanna, she picked up a basket with the shuttle and went to her father, who was working at the workshop. And when she reached the workshop, her father had fallen asleep at the loom, but she was not aware that her father was asleep. So she put down the basket, and by accident, the basket fell and made a noise. When there was a noise, her father woke up again, and by instance, he just pulled the loom, and the tip of the loom swung around and struck the girl in her breast. she died on the spot. Then she was reborn in the Tusita heaven. Her father looked at her and saw that she was dead. So great grief arose in him. He said, "There is none other than the Buddha that can extinguish my grief." So he went to the Buddha and told him what has happened. And Buddha consoled him. Buddha said, "In the beginningless rounds of samsara, you had suffered these kinds of grief, shedding tears more than the water contained in the four great oceans. Now the man was comforted and requested the Buddha to admit him to the orders. So having gained full manhood, the father became an arahant not long after. So in this story also we need to learn how to practice Varanasati during the intensive Vipassana meditation. Also, if we can reflect on that, it is very beneficial. So, the Varanasati, we have to recite again. Uncertain is my life, certain is my death. I shall surely die. That will be termination of my life. Life is unstable and death is sure. So to see the real death, Paramattha Anicca, you are practically here, you are practically observing the arising phenomena. As soon as you observe, they pass away very immediately. So that is Paramattha Anicca. Paramattha, ultimate death, ultimate impermanence. So Maranasati, recollection, can you follow me again? Uncertain is my life. Uncertain is my life. Certain is my death. I shall surely die. That will be termination of my life. Life is unstable. Death is sure. And also in the Abhina Sutta, we need to reflect to encourage us, ourselves. So Jara Dhamomi, Vyadi Dhamomi, Isara, Marana Dhamomi, Marana Nadidodi, Abhina Pichavaki Dabam. I'm subject to aging, I'm subject to sickness, I'm subject to death. I cannot escape it. So aging, sickness, death, during the practice you also see arising, existing for that moment, and pass away. Upada arising, Titi existing for that moment, Vinga dissolution. Aging, staying for that moment, arising, aging for that moment, that is aging and dissolution. So, Abhina Sutta, we need to reflect on. Can you follow me? I'm subject to aging. I cannot escape it. I am subject to aging. I cannot escape it. I am subject to sickness. I cannot escape it. I am subject to sickness. I cannot escape it. I am subject to death. I cannot escape it. I am subject to death. I cannot escape it. So aging is sickness, death. Sickness also you see within 1 hour a lot of problems in the body, itchiness, pain, aching, many things, many sickness in the body. You can see it. So paramata anicca, paramata dukkha, you can see in the practice of vipassana meditation very clear. And also Abhina Sutta, another one is I must be separated and I must be parted from all my properties and beloved one that is dear to me. So we have to be separated, we have to be parted from all our properties and beloved one that is dear to me. So we need to reflect in this way. And the last one is Kama Sukomi, Kama Daro, Kama Yoni, Kama Bandhu, Kama Parisarano, Yang Kama Gresami, Klianawa, Papagawa, Klianawa, Papagawa, Klianawa, Papagawa. I have Kama as my own properties. I'm heir to my Kama. I originate from my Kama. I'm born to my karma, or I'm relatives to my karma. I have karma as my refuge. It is karma that distinguishes beings inferior or superior. Whatever karma I do, good karma or bad karma, of these I shall become the heir. So in the Abhina Sutta, Buddha mentioned these five facts which ought to be often contemplated upon by everyone, whether yogis or ordinary people, whether man or woman, householder, or one gone forth as a monk. So we have to contemplate these five. And also Maranasati, especially very beneficial during the practice of Vipassana meditation, Metta meditation, recollection of the virtues of the Buddha, Varanasati, and Asubha. We can practice few minutes during the intensive retreat. So today's theme, it is Varanasati, but here yogis are practicing Satipatthana, very powerful. So we will continue tomorrow. We have to stop our discourse for today by practicing vipassana meditation, by recollecting the nature of death, by noting rising, falling, sitting, touching, seeing, hearing, continuously and meticulously. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future. So,